Hello, this is about the 6th time I've tried to record this intro. And the reason why I've taken so many times is because this is going to be a complicated video. I've tried to do as much research as I can, and even looking at all the information I've got in front of me and all the data and all the slides I'm going to show you, I am still not convinced anybody knows what's going on financially at Aston Villa. Well, I'm sure the club do, but any of us lot know what is going on and why it has gone on and why the decisions were made. I am going to do my best in the next however long to explain why I think things happened, why I think signings happened, why signings didn't happen, and what it means for Villa going forward in the next couple of windows, and also my opinion on how it's left Villa and the position we're in, and has it changed my expectation for the season to come. So let's get into it. Aston Villa transfer window review. Right, I think it's prudent to start here. These were the deal Aston Villa struck with UEFA. Villa were fined a total of 26 million euros, 22 to 23 million pounds for breaching financial rules. This includes 20 million for the football earnings rule and 6 million euros, 5.2 million pounds for exceeding the squad cost ratio threshold. 12.9 million is suspended contingent on compliance over the next 3 years. So this is what we've had to sign up for, that we would agree to comply with. And this is the only reason we've had the summer we have. And it's complicated. I'm going to move that out of the way for a second so I can see it. So the deal includes 3-year glide path to reach compliance with the stricter football earnings threshold. So this going forward is going to have the biggest impact on us next summer. Because as you know, the Premier League rules allow you to lose £105 million over a rolling 3-year period. But the UEFA rules, and the one we have to now comply with, unless we don't qualify for Europe, remember that, 52 million over a 3-year rolling period. So that's half the losses we were allowed under Premier League rules. So we can only lose £52 million over the next 3-year rolling period, up to 27-28. So that is insane. Villa must submit progress reports every 6 months. If they breach the agreed financial targets by more than 17.2 million, the suspended fine is triggered, and it could lead to a ban from UEFA competitions. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? We've got to comply. We've said we'll comply, and that's what we're having to do. Now, I'm not agreeing with any of this stuff. You obviously don't agree with it. I'm just giving you the facts. Villa are not permitted to increase the cost of their squad for UEFA competitions this season. So we couldn't increase our squad by any more than what we had when we started the window. They must maintain a net positive transfer balance to register players for Europe in 25-26. That's why we've seen only the money we've spent, that we've received, going out in, or less than that. We've got a net profit, actually. So we're fine. We've got a net positive transfer balance, which is why we haven't overspent, and why the loans have become critically important on the last day with Elliott and Sancho. We haven't gone above our net negative transfer balance. We are positive. That's good. That's why we were allowed to do those deals. And we cannot rely on creative financial arrangements, which we saw Villa do very successfully for the women's team. So the squad cost ratio, it was capped on wages and transfers 80%, which has now been lowered to 70%. Villa exceeded the 80% cap, particularly during their UEFA Conference League run, triggering the scrutiny and discussions with UEFA. Villa's, this is the key facts here, 23-24 financials revealed a wage bill of £252 million against £257 million income, which is well past the SCR limits. So we were warned against resorting to inflated player swap deals. Villa under extra scrutiny on transfers like the Kellerman Matson swap. So basically, clubs that we have sold a player to, like when we had the Dobbin and Irabunum deal, they just seen that as a way of circumnavigating these rules. So they've stopped us doing it. I mean, everybody else can, but we can't. So Villa have to reduce their SCR to under 80% next season and ultimately work towards the 70% cap, which, when we get into the outgoings, we'll see why and how was able to do that, and why the first 3/4 of the window was solely taken up by getting rid of players off the wage bill. That was the most important factor. We need to generate positive net transfer income to register players. So unless we've got a positive net transfer amount, we couldn't register any more players for UEFA. And it seems very harsh, doesn't it? Meaning spending must be offset by sales, which is why ultimately Jacob Ramsey had to go, because we didn't sell anybody else worth money in this summer window, because Bailey went for a nominal loan fee, and it's going to be next summer before we see any money for him. And we can't avoid exploitative accounting, obviously. So this is what the summary: 22 to 23 million pound in fines, 15 million that's suspended. We've got to reach UEFA's football earnings rule by 27-28. Fines are triggered if we don't, and we could be banned from Europe, and we must drop our wage revenue, squad cost rate revenue below 80%, and then get down to 70% income positive, and no cost inflation for UEFA squad. Avoid unapproved financial tactics. So why did we sell the women's team? Well, the women's team helped with Premier League PSR. The money that they were all on the same books, basically. So Villa had all the money was going out of the women's team and the men's team. So by selling the women's team into a separate entity, it took the running costs of that club off Aston Villa's books, freeing up cash flow for the men's team. So it brought money into the men's side of the game and allowed the women's team to be sitting in its own business entity, and then any money that was spent on that wouldn't be put against the men's team. So we ring-fenced it away from the men's club. Reports suggest it brought an immediate injection of funds into the men's side, and the income could be booked against the men's balance sheet, giving Villa more headroom. So it gives us that extra bit of money because it was classed as revenue, but we still got fined with the squad cost ratio because of the wages. I hope that makes some kind of sense. I basically asked to try and get a condensed summary of these issues to try and explain it as simply as I possibly could. So essentially, we've got to get the wage bill down to lower than 80% by the end of next season, then 70% of the revenue side. So whatever comes in, if 100 million comes in, we can only spend 80 million on wages, and then next summer 70 million on wages. Obviously, if more revenue comes in, your wage bill is allowed to be more. I think that makes sense. I do think that makes sense. But the interesting one there was that we couldn't spend any more than we brought in. So that's why we've seen very minimal changes. And I do believe that's why we've waited to the last day of the window, because we didn't know what players would be leaving. There was still potential outgoings, with rumours of Barkley going, with rumours of Buendia going. Obviously, Emi Martinez deal was potential right up to the last day of the window. So they couldn't bring anybody in until they knew exactly what was going out, because they have to continually and balance the books whole period. It's insane. It is insane that we are the only club seemingly that have to do this and have had to do it all summer. Are you with me still? I hope so. 9 minutes in. Right. So the start of the window objectives were: number one, reduce the wage bill. Number two, retain key players. Saw that with Kamara deal. Everybody wanted to stay. Wages had to go in to keep him. Comply with PSR and SCR, which we've done. And then the final point was try and compile a squad capable of keeping us challenging within all these budget restrictions. Who would want to be in charge of the finances at Aston Villa? Not me, that's for sure. because they have also got to keep us, the most important people, happy, which we haven't been all summer because we're all frustrated because none of us know what's going on, and it just looks like everyone else is spending and we can't. That's why it's frustrating. So that's the situation Villa found themselves in. What did they do about it? Firstly, we had to clear the decks. That was the most important thing to do this summer. And these are the players, the key players, I think, that went. We'll move on to the more permanent deals in a bit. But the big ones there, Felipe Coutinho, Leander Dendoncker, big wages, huge wages those two are on. Now, that isn't as easy as just saying, just let them go. Because if you release them, they've got to agree to be released. Coutinho, Dendoncker, let's say they're 12 months. I think that 12 months on the left on the contracts. They don't have to go anywhere. They could happily, they've signed a contract in good faith with the club, so they could easily just turn around and say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at Villa. You're paying me £200,000 a week, and I am happy to sit and do nothing. Come in, train with the kids, absolutely whoopee-doo. I'll take my money and I'll just carry on keeping fit in the week and not playing football. The club didn't want that. Coutinho and Dendoncker, you would imagine, wanted to go and play football somewhere, but they wasn't going to turn the opportunity down of getting another payday. So they have to go into negotiation with them. But in the whole time of these negotiations, obviously the club and whoever doing the deals has to keep an eye on how much money is going out. So whatever decision was made, however it was come to the agreement, both players were let go. I would imagine some or part of their deals has had to be paid up to them, so that would go against our book price of on the books. So they were happy to do it. They got them off the books. So let's say we saved half-year wages from both of them. That's great going forward. Not great in the short term, but better than having to pay them for a whole year. Everybody else on that were pretty obvious ones. Courtney House contract ran out. Oliver Zeke, Joe Gauci on loan. Dobby went on loan. Inning Jr.'s gone to West Brom on loan. Philip Marshall. Robin Olsen was released. Moreno gone to Girona permanently. Baron Shea has gone to Benfica on a loan, but will be made permanent next summer. Leon Bailey's gone out on loan, will be made permanent next summer. Kane Kessler-Hayden went out on permanent, and Jacob Ramsey, obviously the big one. Right, Jacob Ramsey, let's deal with this one. This isn't factual. This is my opinion on the deal. From everything I've read, everything I've heard, and everything that I have listened to for this whole summer, I believe Jacob Ramsey wanted to stay at Villa. I also believe Jacob Ramsey wanted a new contract, and he wanted to be paid a certain amount, like he's totally entitled to say. Now, he probably knows roughly what other players have been paid, and he thinks as an important first-team member of the squad that he deserves this amount. The club have to make a decision based on every player, and obviously the most important part of this summer was squad cost ratio, which is wages. Every player, I would imagine, has to be looked at and given maybe an importance in the squad, within the squad. So, do you want to keep him? Who would you let go if you couldn't get the deal done? I think Jacob Ramsey asked for this amount. The club were prepared to give him this amount. They knew that they couldn't budge on it. Ramsey maybe got a bit annoyed because he felt he was worth more than amount A. The club couldn't move anywhere near from their offer to where his offer is. I believe if money was no object, the club maybe would have come to some kind of compromise. Ramsey might have come to some kind of compromise. They could have met in the middle and possibly could have signed that new contract. But with all these financial regulations hanging over the club, with having to bring money in before we can sign anyone, and also getting the wage bill down, they couldn't, in their opinion, and in my opinion, they couldn't give him that contract that he felt he deserved. So it became a standoff, and then ultimately the decision had to be made. If you're not going to sign, then you've got to go, because we can't have you hanging about and going on a free transfer. You're an asset to the club, has to be done. And that's where I think a little bit of annoyance came in, maybe from other players, that this decision was made. Maybe they saw that Kamara got given more or less what he wanted. I'm sure there was negotiations during the Kamara deal, and I'm sure that they had to come to maybe a small compromise over what he wanted and what they would give. But they maybe, who knows, they maybe decided that Kamara, they couldn't let him go. We all thought that. If I'd have said to you at the start of the summer, you had to lose one of Boubacar Kamara or Jacob Ramsey, I don't think there'd be many Villa fans, I might be wrong, who would have chosen to sell Kamara and keep Ramsey. That's not saying that I don't rate Jacob Ramsey. It's just a pure money-based decision. And ultimately, players are assets to clubs. Players have more power than they've ever had, ever. Just look at Alexander Isak and what's happened there. If they want to go, generally they get their way. That's why Jacob Ramsey went, in my opinion. The club were prepared to offer him this. He wanted this. Neither party was prepared to budge, and then he had to be sold. That allowed the money then to maybe be signed Gesson, because that's who we saw come in after Ramsey left. So these are the incomings. The window's closed. I'm not going through the loans and the younger players that came in, like Redmond and all that, because they seem to be along the same lines as what we've done the last few summers, bringing in young players on frees or low amounts, loaning them out and turning them over for a profit, which is sort of the Chelsea model. And I think that will carry on going forward. These are our key first team signings. Evan Gesson, was the big money signing of the summer, 30 million, but still gave us a 15 million pound profit overall on our dealings this summer, which kept us within one of the rules, which I went through earlier. Lindelof was, I think, an astute signing on a free transfer and gives us a solid backup now in the central defensive area. We'll go through the squad in a minute. Marco Bizot, very good debut. Wasn't as good in the last game. I think he got found out a little bit with a couple of things, but it was a tough game all round. Nobody really came out of it with spelling of roses, so that was a tough one for him. But I think ultimately it's an upgrade on Olsen. I think that's a decent signing. And the last two done on the last day, right at the death, Harvey Elliott and Jadon Sancho, both, I believe, are very good signings. And I think Elliott especially will be really, really good for Villa. And I think Sancho could do maybe a Rashford and be a really, really good signing for us. Right. Off the screen. That's very clever to do, isn't it? Reduce wage bill. Check. We've done that. Retain key players. Now, at the start of the window, let's put the Emi Martinez thing to one side, because I will talk about Emi Martinez in a minute. At the start of the window, we all would have given our eye teeth to end the window with Martinez, Ezri Konsa, Boubacar Kamara, Ollie Watkins, all still in the squad. Do we all agree? I think we all agree on that one. So we wasn't sure whether Kamara would sign the deal. He did. And then the rest, I felt there was big question marks whether we would keep Ollie. There was big question marks whether we would keep Emi Martinez, especially because of what happened on the last day when he got upset at the end of the game. It did look like he was going. We have ended the window retaining all of those key players. As I've said, we'll talk about Martinez in a minute, but we've retained all of our big key players. The spine of the team that is often talked about, that has been the brilliant spine of Aston Villa over the last 3 seasons. Martinez, Konsa, Kamara, even Tielemans was linked with moving away. We'll add Morgan Rogers in as well, because we wouldn't want to lose him. And Ollie Watkins. That's Watkins, Rogers, Tielemans, Kamara, Konsa, Martinez. 6 very, very key, important players for Aston Villa. We've kept them all. Somehow we've kept them all. That is very important, given that the financial side of Villa is really, really struggling at the moment, and we couldn't go out and buy who we wanted to. So, wage bill, check. Retain key players, check. Comply with PSR and SCR. I presume, well, PSR has been dealt with the sale of the women's team. SCR with all of those outgoings on the wage side of things has been, I believe, complied with as well. So we are fully compliant with all of those rules currently. But I do believe next summer is going to be just as difficult for Aston Villa, based solely on the £52 million losses over 3 seasons that we have still got to comply with. That is half the losses of the Premier League. That is why, potentially, if we don't get into Europe next season, it might not, in the short term, be the worst thing in the world to allow the revenue streams to increase and to allow us a little bit more breathing space to try and sort out these financial issues. And it may even give us a little bit more wiggle room in the transfer market to make important signings that we will need to make next summer. Hope that all makes sense. Hope I'm not just rabbiting on. I've done a lot of research today and it's very complicated, but I understand people want to know about these things, and I might not be absolutely correct on all of it, but I've done my very best to try and explain it all in the best way I possibly can. Right. Compile a squad that is capable of challenging this season. But I think before we do that, we need to talk about one man. Emi Martinez. Right. Where do we begin with Emi Martinez? We're all part of WhatsApp groups. We're all, I would imagine, just like me, talking every single day to multiple friends, social media. And we've all probably got lots of messages today with loads of conspiracy theories that have now started about what happened with Emi Martinez. Why did the transfer summer go the way it did? Did he want to leave? Did the club try and get him out? Did Man United really want him? Did he try and force a move out of Aston Villa? The truth is, we might never know the truth. I don't think either party are going to come out and categorically say what's happened. I think within all of the things that I've read today, there's probably a little bit of truth in a lot of it, but I think a lot of it has been embellished. So this is my best guess at what happened at Aston Villa based on all of the things I've spoken about here. The issue we had when we didn't qualify back for the Champions League, which I believe was one of the biggest factors in the Emi Martinez summer issues. As you all know, he signed a brand new contract, and it was a huge contract, which he was happy to sign and the club were happy to give him. I think that the minute we didn't qualify for the Champions League and that looked like it could happen, I believe that there might have been a conversation with the club and Emi Martinez that wage going forward is non-sustainable for Aston Villa. Based on everything I've said up to now, squad cost ratio being the most important thing, without Champions League football, Emi Martinez's wages were potentially unsustainable going forward, because you do not make half as much money in the Europa League as you do in the Champions League. So I believe that conversation could very well have happened. You might have to have a word with your agent, and it looks like there's a potential you might have to find a club. I believe that Emi Martinez, despite everything I've said and how really annoyed I was with what happened at the weekend, I still firmly believe deep down Emi Martinez does love Aston Villa. He has to. Just look at what has happened since he signed for us, the things he's achieved, how much he's been loved by our fans. So I want to believe he still loves Villa. And I want to believe he didn't want to leave. But I also have to be very, very honest with the situation the club are in, that they have to make difficult decisions. And one of those difficult decisions, after giving him that big contract, hoping we could get Champions League again, was to potentially say to him, at your age, we may very well need to ship you out. So it might be worth having a word with your agent and trying to find a move. That is why I think he got upset on the last game of the season, because he knew we wasn't qualified for the Champions League. He knew that any conversations he'd had with his agent about a potential move looks like they could have to happen. I also believe that if you look at how it's played out all the way through, and the pretty much nailed on news today that not one firm bid has been received all summer for Emi Martinez, I think that's pretty, not obvious, but that's pretty telling to what my opinion is. That his agent has asked certain clubs, he probably said to Emi, where would you like to play if we could get you a move? And there's a chance, Man United, although they are an absolute shambles at the moment, they're a huge football club, and it's not a bad club to have on your CV. So maybe he said he knows how bad Onana is. He knows that they were spending money this summer. He didn't want to move too far. His wife and kids are very settled. Manchester's not that far. So potentially he said, let's try and get me a move to Manchester United. They probably showed a bit of willing and a bit of positivity towards that move. And I think that's where those rumours started. And I think we expected that deal to happen very early. It never did. There was continued rumours all summer about Onana and where he was and what was happening with him. But no bid came in for Emi. Now, is that because United didn't want to spend the money on a 32-year-old, 33-year-old? Despite his obvious quality, I don't know. But they didn't deem it the right deal for them. Now, that deal was potentially resurrected with a day to go. Maybe Emi said, this is my last chance. If, looks like I have got to go if I possibly can. So we've got to try and make this deal happen with Man United. This is all just hearsay and my opinion. This isn't factual. It'd be interesting to get in the comments and give me your opinion on what you think of this deal. And I think he made the biggest mistake was pulling out of that game. And I firmly believe he did it because he thought the move was on. And all the information and all the press and everything was pointing towards that was the case. And it didn't materialise. No bid came in. United went a different way. Emi Martinez now is left at the Villa looking like he has tried to move away. He has tried to engineer this move, and he looks like the villain. I've read one or two articles today by a couple of the press outlets, and they are trying their best to stir the pot, in my opinion. So I think the truth is somewhere in the middle of all these things. The club probably hinted to him that I think it could be, in everybody's interests if you went. It would help us out massively. You can go and choose wherever you want to play, finish your career there, and then we're okay, you're okay, everybody's happy. It didn't materialise. Where does it leave Emi Martinez? I've had a real think about this today, and it leaves Emi Martinez as Aston Villa's best current goalkeeper. I'm pretty sure the club or Emi won't come out and make a statement because it's not in their interest to do that. I think as a professional footballer and as a squad of professional footballers who are paid very handsomely to do a job, he has to come back. He has to get his head down. He has to train hard. And when picked, he has to play his very best for Aston Villa. It's a World Cup year. It's a hugely important year for him. He will want to go and represent Argentina. We know how passionate he is about his nationality. That's where I am with Emi Martinez. He hasn't moved. He still wears the shirt. He's worn it with fantastic, exemplary performances over the last 2 or 3 years. If he can get back to anywhere near his best, we have still got one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. I hope it can all be worked out. I hope they can all rise above any issues that have had privately. We can draw a line under it. And as a fan base, I hope we can embrace him back into the fold. Because it's in our interests to have our best 11 on the pitch. So that's what I hope for. You may disagree. That's fine. I don't mind that at all. You might never want to see him in a Villa shirt again. That's where I am at with it. Right. That's enough about Emi Martinez. Now let's have a quick look at how the squad has been left after the window has closed. Right. If I bring this up now, So I'm just going to look to the right while I'm talking, if that's okay. So this is our squad. Everybody at the start of the window. Redmond's gone. He's gone on loan. I think Huddersfield, Ealing Juniors, West Brom. Leon Bailey's gone. Gauchi's gone on loan. And Jacob Ramsey, we know, has gone. I'm going to put the young kids over here because I think they are now a part of the first team squad, and I think they will have their part to play as the season progresses. So I think it's important to keep those within this structure of first team squad. And here we have the new signings here of Sancho, Harvey Elliott, and Victor Lindelof. So how does it leave us? If I'm brutally honest, I think it leaves us pretty all right. I think numbers wise, I think we're okay. Left back, we know all about the left backs. Matson and Dean will fight it out tooth and nail to be the first choice, but more than likely they'll just be splitting the role all season. Once Garcia is fit, I feel like he will challenge Matty Cash for the right back slot. We've got two goalkeepers in Martinez and Bizzo. We've also got Wright and Proctor as the third and fourth choices. Torres and Mings left central defence. Lindelof and Konsa right central defence, with Bogard floating as a backup defender / right back / midfielder, which is great. He'll help his development no end. Midfield wise, I did expect Barkley to leave. He hasn't, but it's left us pretty strong in the 6 double pivot area / 8-10, where a couple of 3 of these can also play. McGinn, we've also seen play of the right hand side of the front 3. So we're pretty okay in centre midfield. Tillemans, Kamara, McGinn, and Arna Barkley. We need to get Kamara and Arna back, hopefully after the international break, and back in the squad because the bench will look a lot stronger. Morgan Rogers, Emi Buendia in the 10, Sancho off the left, Gassan off the right, potentially, or even as a backup striker, because that is the position we really are struggling with. But I do believe Gassan will be our backup striker if Watkins doesn't play. Harvey Elliott can play 10. He can play off the right. He can play in the 8. He can play in the 6, but I don't ever see him playing there for us. I think he'd be more attacking. And Daniel Marlon can also cover in multiple positions along this front 4. And then you've got Proctor, Jimolova, Wright, Patterson, Rowe, Burrows, and Hemmings as additional first team players if needed and in earlier rounds of League Cups and things. So, as I say, overall, numbers wise, we're pretty good. 2 left backs, 5 central defenders, 2 right backs, 2 goalkeepers, 5 in the midfield / 6 with Bogard. And then we've got Sancho, Rogers, Buendia, Gassan, Marlon, and Elliott that can all play in the attacking midfield roles, with Ollie Watkins as our really only one true out-and-out striker. So this is the only area particularly we could have issues with going forward. But if he's fit, he plays, doesn't he, Ollie? And he won't play in early rounds of cup competitions, and he'll get rested from time to time as well. So overall, I think it's pretty good. I think we're okay as far as the squad numbers go, barring any really bad injuries, which we don't want. Obvious areas, don't have to say it. I'm not tempting fate. What do you think? Do you think we're okay numbers-wise and quality-wise? We've also added some decent quality. If you think we've lost Asensio and Rashford from the last 6 months of last season, we've added Elliott and Sancho, so similar players in similar positions. Hopefully Sancho will be as good as Rashford was as well. So there's one more thing I do want to have a quick chat about. It is the overall Premier League spend of the summer. Now, this is a fantastic site which Kieran Maguire has set up. It's called Value Ball. Anybody can have access to it, but you do have to pay a small subscription if you want the real deal, the big details of all the club's finances. And it is something I've subscribed to. And if anybody wants to know anything, I can get access to it. So here we have the 25-26 purchase comparison. So this is the spending from every Premier League club. As you can see, right down the bottom there, we've got Aston Villa with a spend of £37 million. Well, we've spent 37 million. It's not the net spend. That is what we've spent on players this summer. Palace 51, Fulham 61, Brighton 70, Brentford 100, Leeds 106, Wolves 110, Burnley 120, Everton 124, West Ham 131, Bournemouth 138, Sunderland 166. They have done some very, very good business, Sunderland has, and they have had a real go. I've got an interview on Friday actually with a ex-Villa player, and he might have some interesting insight into Sunderland. That'll give you a clue actually. And then we've got the big boys, the big guns that have been big in the window this year, and it is no surprise that Spurs, Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea and Liverpool are 6 out of the top 8 spenders this summer with 185. Forest, who just continue to spend 204, 208 Man City, 232 Man United, 261 Newcastle, 269 Arsenal, 329 Chelsea, but by a country mile, the biggest spenders this summer, £447 million spent. I heard a very interesting take by ex-Aston Villa Chief Executive Christian Purslow. I mentioned this on the phone in last night, and if you haven't watched that already, go and watch that. It's fantastic with Gary Thompson. And Christian Purslow basically said he has an inkling that the big clubs, the established big six, shall we say, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, Man City and Spurs, have had a little inkling that the rules could be about to change in the next year or so. And this could be why all of them have gone huge this summer. Because while their revenue allows them to, and there's nothing worrying about debt, have they gone big knowing that the rules could change and then their advantage could be wiped out? Be good for us? I don't know. What do you think? So that's the purchases. Sales-wise, amazingly, Chelsea have sold £361 million worth of players, all the way down to Everton have only brought in £3 million. We are at, I think, about the 12th, 13th club at £52 million in sales, which feeds into what we had to do, which makes sure we brought in a net profit. So this is the net spend of the summer. We are minus £15 million. Bournemouth made the most profit with sales of 72 million, and Arsenal spent the most net on with 256 million pound in actual spend when you take off what they brought in. I just thought that was an interesting final look at what the spending has been like in the Premier League this window. Okay, I think that just about wraps it up from me. I hope. Oh no, season objectives. That's the last thing, wasn't it? Yeah. So, my season objectives before the window were once again, hopefully, to challenge for Europe this season. Champions League was always going to be difficult, even without our financial issues and problems, because of the spend of the big clubs, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, the Man United, not even Man United particularly, Spurs, Man City. So it was always going to be very, very difficult to get in and amongst the top 4 again. Could 5th be good enough? I don't know. Could we challenge for 5th? I don't know. But I had us in around where we have been the last couple of seasons, 6th, 7th-ish, possibly 8th. Where do I see us now? And I think it's a good time to have a real think about where you see us when the window closes, because we all know what the squad is. We all know now what we're dealing with for the rest of the season. And my objectives have changed. My where I see us at has changed. I now see us And this isn't so much about where we've started and how we've started, because we know we haven't started that well. But I do believe all this uncertainty and all this upheaval off the pitch hasn't helped with the preparation of the first 3 games, especially on Sunday when we had all the Emi Martinez furore before the game. I think now we can draw a line under the window. Now we know what we're dealing with. And now we've got this little break. Hopefully we can just start afresh. First game back, difficult place to go, Everton. They're starting very well. But hopefully we're all on the same page. Any issues can be ironed out and we can start properly. If we can get anywhere near back to where we were last season, which I do believe we can, I still think it's a top half finish for Villa. That's where I'm at currently. I still see us between 7th. If we have a brilliant season, 6th-ish. But I think 7th to 10th is where I'm seeing us at the moment. I want us to win the trophy, but I also understand that we might have to prioritise. So I'm comfortable this season with putting out a much weaker side in the League Cup. We know we've got a difficult trip away to Brentford, whereas all the other European chasing clubs have all got lower league opposition, so that's going to be very tough. But I do believe we'll go weaker in that game, which could see us go out, which will be a shame. But the bigger picture is we've got to concentrate on doing decent in the league. And I think we should throw everything into the Europa League this season. FA Cup doesn't start till January. We can forget about that for 3 months. Let's throw everything into the Europa League. We've seen what happens with Tottenham this season. They finished 16th, 17th, something like that. 15th, 16th, sorry. But they won the Europa League, and that has catapulted them once again. Yes, they've got the revenue-generating behemoth, which is the stadium, but it has catapulted them back into the big time again. We know what the Champions League monetary revenue does for a club. So for me, if we finish 10th, got knocked out the 2 domestic cups, but won the Europa League, that would be a very good season based on the start we've had and the summer we've had and all the issues that we have to face in the window and transfer-wise. That's where I'm at. I'd take a mid-table finish if we could win the Europa League, but I think we need to throw everything at that. I think it's a competition we genuinely can win. I've looked at the clubs in it. Yes, there's some tricky opponents, but I think we're good enough to beat them. So drop me in the comments section what you think. Where is your expectation at? Thank you. Over the last few weeks, it's been tough on social media for myself. I've took a lot of stick for things, but I have had some absolutely fantastic people come up to me at work, message me. Some very, very good friends are stuck by me, really, really stuck by me, and I will be forever grateful. You know who you are. I'm not going to name you all now, but I love you all, and especially to the lady that came up to me this morning with her husband. I really hope you watch this, because you don't realise how nice it was for you just to come up out the blue and tell me what you did. Tell me. It was lovely, and I thank you very much for that. So I'm going to leave you with this little video. As you all know, I'm part of Finalysis on the new football app. So if you want to get involved in that, go and Google finalysis.com. It's huge. It's going to be big. I've had a bit of stick for saying it's going to be big, but we had a meeting last week with Michael McIntyre, who it's his brainchild, along with Gary Neville. Sky are massively involved. I'm a starting 11 Finalysis, so I'll give my ratings at every game. It's going to be brilliant when it's properly fully launched. It's in a soft launch at the moment. There's a few little bugs and things that they are working on currently with the feedback from us. And once it goes big in September, October time, I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a really good platform. You have to be authorized to go on it, which is great, because there's no hopefully no idiots on there, and we can all just have a real debate about our football club that we all love and just want the best for. Finally, I want to thank Damien Vidagani, Monchi, Unai, the team at Aston Villa, the financial guys, everybody that's worked tirelessly this summer to try and put a team out that we can be proud of this season. And if any of the players are listening, I don't know whether they do, just good luck for the season. We love you all. Emi Martinez, we love you all of you. We know it's not been easy. We know it's been a difficult summer for you. We know there's been a lot of upheaval, lots of stuff written and said. We don't know the ins and outs, but we back you and we want you to do your very, very best. And I hope you can in the coming games. I'm going to leave you with this. This is my debut on Sky Sports News this morning, talking to the team about Villa's transfer window. I love doing it, and hopefully I'll see a few more times on this. So thanks very much. All the best. Up the Villa.
And the club have wished him happy birthday on their social medias as well. How difficult will it be now for Martinez, Charlie?
It'd be difficult in the fact that in his head he'd be thinking I could get moved to Manchester United, but that hasn't materialised. The biggest thing now is he's got the relationship between himself and the manager. It looks a tricky one. It looks like we've only heard from the outside, but it seems like since he's won the World Cup, ever since then it's been.
But he clearly thought it was going.
Yeah, obviously his reactions, right? But he's now got to get around playing for Aston Villa again. But also, is he going to be the number one? Because if you're going off what the manager's reaction, it's the first time we've heard him be like that in his interview, Marco Bizot. Like, is he going to be the number one now, or is he going right? This is where I am, and going to make him be second choice. I think the tough bit is now, ultimately, mate, is that when he actually comes back into training, everybody knows how good he is. Everybody in football knows how good he is. He's Argentina number one. He's a World Cup winner. He should be ultimately Aston Villa's number one. But Unai Emery may think differently.
Was it a sign from... So what you were alluding to there was pre-match on Sunday. Unai Emery just answered every question with Marcus Bisnock.
Yeah, because he kept saying that. And I felt
constantly. Does that show that he's been... he's not happy with what the situation was either?
Frustration. That was clear frustration in his voice onto the fact of that's how he wanted to come across. He's frustrated in the whole scenario with Emi Martinez. And all of a sudden, the deal, or if there was a deal to materialise for him, hasn't gone through. Now he's got the goalkeeper. Do they amend their relationship? Because from the outside looking in, it looks quite frosty.
Well, after a relatively quiet window, Aston Villa did spring into life on deadline day with the signings of Harvey Elliott and Jadon Sancho. Let's speak to a Villa fan and now a representative from Finalysis, Justin Hawthorne. Good morning to you, Justin. We will start with Emi Martinez. What's your take on the situation? And are you worried about his situation?
Good morning, chaps. No, I'm not massively worried. I think he's probably took some bad advice, and I think Manchester United have probably done him over a little bit, because I think he was fully expecting the bid to come in and he was fully expecting to leave. Otherwise, I can't imagine why he would think it was right to not play at the weekend. I mean, you look at how Mark Gahey, I've just been listening to you talking about him, how he conducted himself. He was expecting the big move the day after, yet he played. He was excellent and he scored a brilliant goal. Whereas Emi decided it was right for him not to play and to pull out of the game, which I think was incredibly frustrating for the manager and probably for his teammates as well. So I think when he returns from international duty, he owes his teammates a little bit of an apology.
Do you think he'll be back as number one, though?
Yeah, I think he's our best goalkeeper. He has been since he's arrived. He's had a fantastic relationship with the fans. I think that's why the Villa fans have been so frustrated with. From the last game of last season, when he was seen crying on the pitch, I think we all sort of thought, OK, this is obviously something happening in the background. I think we all expected him to move early in the window. That didn't materialise. And the longer the window went on, we sort of thought, OK, the noise coming out of Manchester United was they didn't know what they were going to do with Onana. And then the later it got, I thought the less likely it was to move. So for that all to happen on Sunday was awful preparation for the game. You know, the game was very flat from Villa. The team looked very lethargic, and the body language was quite poor. The manager was put under a lot of pressure pre-match with the questions he was asked, and he didn't have any other option really other than to back the keeper that he'd had to pick on the night. So, yeah, it's a difficult situation, but the window's shut now. He's a Villa player and he's a professional footballer, and we have to expect him to come back and get knuckled down and play for Villa. It's a World Cup year, so he want to play as much as he can.
I think he will do that, Justin. Like you say, it's a World Cup year. And I think now, for Villa, the window's shut. The manager has got these players in, and we've seen the Jadon Sancho, Harvey Elliott coming in. I think you look at it now, over the three games, Villa have looked rather poor. I understand with the PSR stuff and all that's going on and where they find themselves, you've got to be on the level. But as I look at it now, I totally get the Harvey Elliott scenario. I think it's a fantastic signing. I think what will happen in the future, he's got a great future ahead of him. What I can't get my head around, though, is the Jadon Sancho bit. Because what a Villa seen, he's going to bring to the table. Because at Manchester United, it didn't work. At Chelsea, it obviously didn't work, so they'd rather pay $5 million for him. So I'd like to see how Unai Emery and Aston Villa are going to get him to fit into their model.
Yeah, I think firstly he's coming to a club that, you know, will welcome him with open arms and will back him as the minute he pulls that shirt on.
But of course, Justin, sorry, but whatever football club he went to, every fan base is going to open up to him. It's a new signing. So on that one, that's what you kind of expect to happen. No one comes through the door and then all of a sudden the fan base is up in arms. Of course not.
No, I totally get that, Charlie. And I think what I'm trying to say is the manager has got a track record of I think he did it at Villarreal. He's done it at all the clubs he has, of buying players that are supposedly have fallen out with their previous clubs, haven't got the right attitude. I mean, everybody wrote Marcus Rashford off in January when we went for him. He hadn't played for months. Everybody told me he had a bad attitude. All the Man United fans couldn't wait for him to leave the club. Yet he come to Villa Park. First game, he was tracking back. He was in the right back slot, making tackles. He was creating goals. He was causing havoc. So I back Unai Emery because Unai Emery is one of the greatest managers I've seen at Aston Villa, and he's one of the best European managers. So if he deems Jadon Sancho, and I presume he's spoken to him, to get his head right, then we've got a brilliant footballer. You know, at Dortmund, he was absolutely fantastic, and he comes into Villa with Daniel Marlin and Ian Matson now, two teammates from the Dortmund days when he reached the semi-finals of the Champions League. So, and at his age now, he's going to have a limited amount of games and times where he's going to be, you know, transferred to a big club, and we are a massive club. So he's got another opportunity now to put a marker down and show everybody what he's made of.
Yeah, it's a good point that he's got some previous teammates there. In terms of players who've come in late in the window, like we just said, Elliott and Sancho was on loan. Victor Lindelof has come in for free. Is that all down to PSR, which of course it appears it forced you to sell Jacob Ramsey?
Yeah, I mean, the PSR and the SCR issues have just hampered us all summer. I went to the end of season awards and Damien Vidigani, our head of football operations, alluded to the fact it was going to be an incredibly difficult summer, and I didn't really realise the extent of that until we got halfway through it. And it's basically been let's just get rid of as many of the players that we can that are on the biggest wages. We've retained a lot of players at Villa that are on big wages, the likes of Coutinho's, the Dendonkers, the Morenos, you know, even so we've had to ship all them out, and that's not an easy task, especially when they're on big money. They don't want to leave. And then obviously you add to that Ramsey goes because of, you know, he's an academy player, so you get good money for him, and then that goes against your PSR and your SCR. I mean, I'm becoming a financial expert, not a football fan anymore. It's ridiculous. But I mean, we've got progressive, ambitious owners that want us to be successful, and we're being penalised for that. Yes, they've had to make difficult decisions. Yes, they've had to push us on by giving big contracts to players, because that's the only way you can improve, getting big contracts to players to incentivise them to come to your club. But we've increased revenue since they've come in 2018, 2019, from 54 million to 267 million. That's a 400% increase. We've seen massive deals, sponsorship, yet we are the only club that have been hampered massively this summer in the fact we can't bring anybody in. And if you look at all the big players that have left, they've all been ripped away from the sort of middle to lower clubs. Once again, the big clubs are all going in and just spending the money because their revenues are higher.
But the gap's going to happen, Justin, and that's what's going to be the knock-on effect now.
Yeah, but that's unfair,
No,
Charlie.
no, I'm fully with you, Justin. And we talk about that. You got the top six, and you got the middle league, and then the bottom six, whatever. But I think now it's just going to be a knock-on effect, unless this PSR kind of they can find a fine level with it, because the gap is only going to get bigger, because Aston Villa are just a number of teams that are affected of their own success in previous years.
I get it that we need to have rules, because otherwise clubs can just run riot. But that's already happening. Yeah. Liverpool, £400 million this summer. You know, Man United are in millions and millions of pounds worth of debt, and that's not counted. That every time I bring that up, it doesn't matter. It doesn't count with these calculations, and that's unfair. They've let so many people go behind the scenes. It's ridiculous. Yet Villa, who are a progressive, ambitious club with owners with no debt, to us, no doubt at all. We're a solvent, very well-run club with huge ambition, yet we are hampered in a way where we got into the Champions League and now we're just dropping back down into the pack again because what? Because of rules that are hampering us.
Getting punished for it. Getting punished for it, Justin, from getting the Champions League.
Christian Persson made a very interesting point yesterday, and he feels, and I don't know whether you brought this up, that the bigger clubs feel like that there's something coming, and that's why they've all gone big this summer, that the change is coming potentially. Yeah. And I think that's a very interesting point.
Well, we will see. Justin, thank you.
Thanks, lads. Have a good day.
Now, it's been a chaotic